Hello, familia, and welcome back to the channel. I'm Steph, and today we are going to be taking a look at my full completed Valley tour. I have over 1500 hours in this game, and this is the first time that I have fully completed and decorated my Valley, and I am so proud of how she came out. I like to call my Valley Switch friendly because as of right now, I'm only at about 3,200 items, and I know right now that the item limit for Switch is at 3,000. A lot of what I've done could definitely be revamped to include less items. I used a lot of rock. I used a lot of foliage in areas that I probably didn't need to use as much. So definitely feel free to tweak so that you can stay within your limit. But this is just a way to show that you can still have a fully decorated valley without having to use the full 6,000 count. I really do hope y'all enjoy, and I'm so excited to share with you all what I did in detail and what I've done in creating a functional valley. So I'm going to stop yapping and let's get to it. So let's start with the plaza. The plaza was one of my first areas that I decorated on my valley. I always like to start here because I feel like it's just the central area. It has all the main buildings. And to start out with, I think the first section I decorated was Remy's. I started by placing all the buildings first, and I knew I wanted Remy over here in this corner. I have it in a bit of a diagonal, along with some seating in the front. I also have the piano because the idea is that this is just a very romantic spot with live music. I used the red and gold chairs along with this item. I believe it was one of the Beast friendship items. It's one of my favorites because of the string lights and the vines that come down the post. I felt like the red tablecloth just really pulled in the red from Remy's restaurant and just tied this whole area together. I just think it's very cutesy. I really love how it came out. I feel like Remy's doesn't feel so imposing having it here in the front. Over on the right, I had to put his competition right in the front, Tiana's stall. I feel like it was just perfectly placed here. It looks so cute too. One of my favorite areas of the plaza has to be the train station. I have a bit of a water feature in the front with a lot of foliage. In the center, I use the Ratatouille arch. You're able to craft this from the Eternity Isle. If you have the Eternity Isle DLC, you're able to craft this as one of the items. I love it in front of the Dream Park's entrance. I've seen quite a bit of creators and people use this as a train station. Over here to the left, I have a little bit of a seating area where you can wait for your train. We have our ticket booth right here and some more seating. I wanted to have this portion look a bit like a train stop, and I have it continuing on to the other side of the plaza. So my idea was the train kind of goes underground and then comes back up here for its next train stop on this side of the plaza. And I do really like how it ties it in together. You're also gonna see I tied this into the meadow because the meadow and the plaza are very much openly connected. I wanted to make it make sense, you know? Over here, I had to place Scrooge, and off to the side, we have Daisy's shop. I love how Scrooge and Daisy, they have a lot of the same finishes, so I feel like it just gives it, I like that it gives a very cutesy shopping vibe. One of my favorite areas other than my train station is using the river kits here in the front. I wanted something here. Originally, I had like a fountain, but a fountain just, it felt too empty for some reason. So instead I decided to put a little bit of a pond, and I just love how it finished off the area. I also have like the little carts off on the side. So you can stop by and get a little snacky snack while you're shopping. I genuinely overall love how my plaza came together. I wanted it to feel not so much city, but more of a town. And I think I was able to accomplish that overall vibe. I also placed the cafe and the bakery right next to each other. Coffee and bread, that just makes such perfect sense to me. I would love to finish and decorate the interiors of both these buildings And that was kind of my intent to do that before I completed the valley. I didn't get to do it, but it's definitely something I do still plan to do in the future just to make the area feel complete. So the next biome that I decorated was the meadow. I definitely wanted it to feel like a town and a continuation from the plaza, but more of a residential space as opposed to the plaza, which was very much a shopping area. So over here to the side, I have a little bit of a farmer's market section. Under the gazebo is where I have my crafting table, cooking station, and a chest. And you will see that in each of my biomes, I made sure to include each of those things. So if I'm working on the star path or anything of the sort, I'm not having to run back to my house to access those tools. I can get them anywhere. Another cute touch that I did was adding a companion house in every biome. The only two biomes I didn't include one in would be the plaza and the frosted. And that's just because the plaza just feels like it's too perfect the way that I had it. So I really didn't want to add additional companions. And then for the frosted, we just don't have a cute companion house that I feel like can work over there. But I felt like Nana's house was perfect for this section. One of my standouts of my meadow, I have to say, is the gazebo with the moat that I have going around it, the water feature I have going around it. This was one of the first things that I decorated in the meadow. And she is my pride and joy. I really, really love how it came out. I love how it is a really great centerpiece to the meadow. Off to the left over here, I decided to add the flower shop. I moved it from the plaza over here, and I feel like it was a good touch because over on this side, although I did want this to feel more town and less city, I felt like the flower shop gave more of like a quaint little boutique and less city. We have Merlin's house over here, which acts as if it's the town library. We have the little confectionery shop over here. And then off to the side, I have Remy's house. I felt like his house placed very well with a lot of the other houses that I placed over in the meadow. And then out over here in the back is where I have Tiana's restaurant. And I really, really love having her restaurant back here. I feel like her restaurant has a lot of the same finishes that a lot of the other buildings in my meadow have. So I felt like it was just a really great addition to adding it here in the meadow. I have additional seating off to the left over here. And over on the right is our VIP section. So again, I used this beast item, which just works so well with Remy's and with Tiana's. They both have that red and it ties it all together. So I really do like how this all came out. You know, my girl holding this basket, when she walks, is it heavy? I'm sorry. Not to distract. Mama, let's take this out again. Okay, there you go. You were struggling just a bit. But anyway, I really love how this came out. I decided to put the two fountains up here in the front. Previously, I had two hedges over here, but they just felt too big and imposing. So I felt like the fountains were more of a better touch. And then over here is the continuation of our train stop. As you can see, the tracks kind of curve as if they're going up to go to where the plaza is. And that's what I meant as far as like tying both the plaza and the meadow together. I wanted it to feel very cohesive. And I felt like adding the additional train and trolley there just looked really, really good. And then over here, we have a little bit of a marketplace where I have Kristoff's stall and Mulan's stall along with Goofy's stall. I had to use this skin for Goofy stall over here in this section. I just felt like it went so well color-wise, as well as the well skin. And another thing I did with both my well and even all my functional items like Goofy's stall, I wanted all of it to feel like it was a part of the build, as opposed to just creating a specific area for it. And I really, really do like that. Everything is very functional. I can get to all of my mining nodes in all my biomes. That is something you'll see as we go through it. Again, I wanted my plaza to feel very open, especially with us getting the horses. And even before we got them, I wanted more of an open space because doing quests in a very cluttered valley it's just not it. So I guess as we're coming over to this area, we can go into the glades. So here we are in the Glades. The overall theme for the Glades was more of a fairy core town. I wanted it to feel like this is an area that the fairies live and they have their own town hall. And this is just a thriving fairy community. And I absolutely love the way my Glades came out. Originally, I was not feeling it. I spiraled so much about the pathing. I just didn't know if the pathing fit. So I spiraled so much with my community. If you have not caught one of my lives, I highly recommend. I basically make the Lobitos make my decisions for me because I can't make decisions. I get decision fatigue, but I do really like how it did finally come out. I love using this bouquet house here. I just feel like it looks like a little house that little fairies would live in for some reason. That's the vibe, the overall vibe that it gave me. Over here next to Mama G's house, I did keep this section very, very simple. I just decorated it as a normal walkway. I have my Goofy stall over here. I didn't do anything crazy because again, I don't want everything to look too cluttered. I wanted it to feel very, very clean. Under this gazebo, I have a cooking station that I can use here. I have a crafting station placed in another area of the biome because as I said, I wanted to make sure that I had a crafting station, a cooking station in every biome so I'm not having to travel too far. Over here is where we have our companion house with our little gators, our baby gators. And as you make your way past the fairy town hall and you come through this section, we have a outdoor theater for our fairies, and I thought this was just so cute. This is literally no big deal, but I just thought this little section for them to have like an outdoor theater was just so super cute. My birds are stealing my flowers. I should have turned that off. And then over here I have a little bit of a cul-de-sac with all of these very cottagey fairy houses. All of these houses here give me like fairy house, so that's why I placed them here, especially the acorn house, which everyone calls the poop house, and you should be ashamed. Because how cute is that place? Literally, all of you get out. That is so cute. Anyway, when you lead down here, I have a bit of a walkway, and this right here is my pride and joy of my glades. You will see in each biome, I have a pride and joy. Like there's one specific build that I was just like, yeah, you kind of killed it on that one. And for me, it's this little walkway. It's again, no big deal, but I just really love having all of the string light arches off to the side. And I use the moss fencing along the edges. And I just love how it ties everything in the glades. I ended up changing this side to the Ancients Landing pathing. And this just works so much better over here. I feel so much better about how my glades look overall. And then I placed Tiana's here off in the corner because again, I love the coloring of her house and I feel like it works with the overall theme that I have here. I also placed a little hot air balloon because I feel like this is their little place of travel for the fairies and this is how they travel. So I have one over here and over in the back next to Tiana's house. And I just love the extra sparkle that they give off. I feel like it was just placed really, really well in this section. Oop, moonstone chest, please hold. And then we come over here to my well. Again, I have all my wells placed in a way where they are just part of the build. And over here is where I have my crafting table as well. I love how this little section over here kind of splits both the entrances into the glade. And yeah, this is my glades. I'm really so proud of how the finished product came out. I had to change this to the sunset time because when everything glows is, in my opinion, when it looks the best. Another time that it looks really, really good is in the middle of the night, and I'll change it real quick so you can see how our town whole area looks. Like, are we kidding? Look how magical that is. I'm obsessed. I'm honestly obsessed with it. So proud of our little glades. My favorite biome has to be the forest biome. It is by far my favorite decorated biome. I love how it absolutely came out. I think in general, the forest is probably my favorite biome in the main valley, period, just based off of the aesthetic of it all. I was inspired by Dreams with Jam here on YouTube. I saw a stream of hers where she used the rose fencing and made it curved, and I took inspiration from that to add that here to this section. And I love how magical it made this area feel. We recently received this haunted house, and I just felt like the tones with the blue and the round really tied into my vineyard house that I have here over to the right. And this is actually my main house. Again, the forest is my favorite. So are we surprised that I decided to live here? I have a cooking station again and a crafting station right over here, right outside of my little baby vineyard. And then the star of the show and my pride and joy is this river that I made over to the left that comes along the side of this. I am obsessed with how this came out. I think creating this pond is what made me a pro with using the Riverland kits. If you've played with them at all, they are so finicky and there is such a learning curve to making them work. And the hours that I spent building this, I think is what finally made me comfortable with it. I also put all of my Dreamlight trees into the forest because I love how they literally have the little sparkles that fall from it. I think it just adds a lot more sparkle. And then over in the back, I use the greenhouse items that we received with our last star path in order to house all of my forageable bushes and trees. I do have some of them that aren't here. They are in other biomes. For example, my lemon trees are in the meadow just because I felt like they fit that area really well. And then I kept the bananas and the coconuts on the beach. And the cherries, I did keep them in the frosted biome. But everything else I have here in this greenhouse, because I just knew I had to use this greenhouse in the forest. I think the coloring of it just looks really, really well in here. And then over to the right of my forest is my campsite. And I don't know, I feel like this is also my pride and joy. Honestly, the forest may just be my pride and joy of the valley as a whole, because there's not one section over here that I'm like, I could have redone that, or I'm probably going to scratch that and redo it. Like, there's literally nothing about this biome that I want to change. I do have a companion house here with our little raccoons that looks so cute. Having the companion houses, I feel like just added some movement to the biomes, and that's what I really wanted to create. It's not like the trees move or anything. So having the companions, I feel like just brought a bit of life into it. I used the castle walls to hide, unfortunately, Elsa's house because it's just so blue and so frozen. So the castle walls, I feel like, did a great job of hiding it. And then I just placed like Peter Pan's house and this orchard house in front of it. I love this house, by the way. It's top tier. It actually has an apple tree that drops apples from it from the top. I think you can see it rolling down. Like, how stinking cute is that? So yeah, over here, I do have multiple entrances to get into the frosted if I need to. Yeah, the forest honestly has to be one of my favorite biomes that I've done. Over here, I have two of the smaller tents. One thing I love about these tents is how they look at night. The little string lights in the front light up, and it's one of my favorite things about them. I also used a lot of the floating candles, which came recently in an update where we can now place those outside. I felt like it added to the area in adding its own touch of magic. Since I do have the forest with an overall like majestic feel, I still wanted to add that touch to the campsite. So I felt like adding the floating candles did that. But this is my overall forest. Oh, another thing I did is back here is where I hid the beast's flower shop. It is fully functional. I have a love-hate relationship with this. I remember being so excited when we first got this because I just thought, oh my goodness, the flowers, the vines, it's so pretty. And then little by little, it became an eyesore, and I realized it's just because of the flowers in the front. I feel like if we can take away the vase and the main one in the center, I would actually love this. The only thing I don't like is I feel like the colors clash with one another, and that's what makes it an eyesore. But this is our forest. I love it. I can literally walk through this thing a million times and never get tired of it, because I'm just so proud of how it came out. I honestly think I took the longest with this biome as well. And that's when I knew I really had to lock in, because if I spent the amount of time I spent on this biome for every single biome in the valley, this tour would not be happening. I would have never got it done. So here we are in my second favorite biome of my valley, which is my sunlit, excuse me, owl. Hello, full frontal. It is the Sunlit Plateau. I absolutely love how this came out. I wanted this to feel like a bit of an oasis. So I used I believe this item was from Nala's questline. I wanted it to feel lush and full and all the things. All the things. I wanted it to have a bit of a jungle feel to it, but still be very open. So I made sure that the pathings were very big and easy to traverse through, but still had these clusters that still gave it a bit of a jungle vibe. And I absolutely love how it came out. I used this cart here, which looks like an oversized mine cart, but just cuter. In front of the mine section, my idea is that there's someone here who studies the mines, and this is where they live. And you have the mine carts coming in and out of the cave. I just think this is so cute. I really do love how this came out. I know I've said that so many times. Literally, take a shot for every time I said, I love how this came out. Actually, don't do that. Hydrate. Hydrate. Yes, let's do that. Let's hydrate for every time I say, I love how this came out. But I do. I honestly, y'all, I'm just so proud of how much I've gotten done in the valley. I'm really proud that I was able to finally finish it and give y'all this full tour. And then over here in the back of the jungle, there is a hidden little town. And I used Tinkerbell's house as an oversized arch entering into this area. And I think the color of her house fit this jungle vibe very, very well. So over here, I have Flynn's house. I have the tavern. I have what looks like you can rent canoes. This is just like a little mini town that I put in the back of the jungle. Over here, I used one of the campers. And over here is where I have, again, a cooking station. I have my crafting station over here. I have some benches that I put out here. These benches, I actually colored them using the Touch of Magic, because I wanted something that had a bit more of a lighter, warm tone than the benches we currently have. And I feel like it fit this area and gave more of the jungle feel that I wanted the benches to have. And back here on stream, we decided to add Belle's Library, because again, with the blues and the whites, it just tied this whole area together. Originally, I had this completely blank. I had nothing back here, but we decided on stream to add this here because it just completed the area. It filled up the space. And again, it just tied the entire biome together. And if y'all are wondering what my current item count is, I can show you right now. I am at 3,232 out of 6,000. So I would call my valley switch friendly. A lot of what caused me to even go over it by the 200 was because a lot of my pathing, I use these rocks to line the pathing as opposed to using the pathing that has the stone edging. If I was to place this with the stone edging, it would still look really pretty. I'm very particular, so I wanted to add the rocks instead of using the one with the edging. But this can totally work if you wanted to swap that out, and that could help save on some of your item count. And also over to this side is where I have Simba, Timon, Pumbaa, the whole gang lives over here. I decided to move out Scar and put them here and create their own individual oasis off to the side. I didn't know what else I wanted to fill this space with, and I really didn't want it to look dark and dreary the way it does with Scar's house here. So instead, I decided to put theirs and brighten it up a bit with using greenery and whatnot. And this leads us to the Forgotten Lands. The Forgotten Lands was my biggest pain to decorate just because of the layout and the treehouse that we have that's just right dead smack in the middle of the biome. It makes it very, very difficult to work with. So over on this side, I have the fortune teller's tent. I love how glowy it is, especially during the sunset time. I have a little souvenir shop where you can purchase your own crystal ball and see your own future. And I also have Aladdin's gem stole over here. I felt like the colors just went really, really well with the fortune teller's tent. So I felt like it was only fitting to put it there. I also use the tangled skin on the Goofy stall because it has the golds and the purples. I felt like it was very fitting as well alongside my crafting bench, which is over here. Off to the left, I have a potion shop, and this is where I have my cooking station. And the potion shop was so perfect for this section because it's the perfect size. Some say like it's a little too tiny, but I think the tininess is what makes it so quaint. And I loved being able to place it here. We got this tree from the island event that came along with the spooky season, and I did not think I was going to use this tree anywhere. And I absolutely love it here, especially in front of the mansion. I think it was the perfect centerpiece. And at night, it glows so nicely. Nala was literally just sliding. Okay. Over here is where I have my companion house. I used Zero's house for the companions, and all the glowy mystical companions are over here. This is an extension to the potion shop. I knew I had to use these little stalls. They're just too pretty not to have out. I used the greenhouse walls along with the vines. These vines, you receive them if you have the storybook veil. You can get them from Scrooge's shop. I have them against the walls, and the layering of this was one of my favorite things that I did. Again, no big deal, but to me, I just thought it was so nice layered on top of it. It gave it just a little something extra. And then over here, I have Jack's house. I have the Halloween Christmas one because I love how much it glows and how glowy it looks, especially during this time of night. In front of it, I just use a ton of foliage to have like a little centerpiece. And I really, really like how this section looks next to the mansion. Well, off to the right, we have the horseless carriage parked to the side of our cemetery. And I wanted the cemetery to feel like a bit of a little maze with how I placed all of the different headstones. And then in the back, we have the organ and a gazebo where you can sit out. And again, this is very spooky because who would just want to voluntarily sit in the back of a cemetery? But you know what? That's the Forgotten Lands, right? I wanted the Forgotten Lands to not only be spooky, but also have a bit of a glow. So I used a lot of the orange trees. I used a lot of the floating candles because although it can be very dark, and I wanted to lean spooky. I wanted it to be glowy spooky. I used the wilted, I think this is like the wilted cottage house or something back here. In my mind, there's an old little old witch that works here. She is also the same one who mans the potion shop was my idea. Is that that's where she lives, and I placed a lot of the mushrooms that you can actually get from the Storybook Vale DLC, and I dropped a lot of the mushrooms to match the mushrooms that come in the front of the house. And I think it tied in pretty good. So I have the well placed here. This is the only biome, honestly, where I have the well kind of in a designated area, and I couldn't figure out a way to just have it built into a build. And it's fine because, again, this biome, I had to be very structured with how I placed everything because of this. This right here, I beg and plead, Gameloft, please let us move this thing, because with all of the night thorns that's here, the hitbox is weird. It's a very weird thing. So all I did was honestly take some fencing and just put it around it, and that was kind of it. I called it done. I have Jack's house placed out here with his car placed over to the side. I also have the Hollywood Hotel placed in the back because I felt like this is where people would stay if they came to visit the Forgotten Lands area. I know it's a ride, but I felt like it placed really good. Even with it being pink, I think the oranges does tie in the orange trees and everything that I used in the Forgotten. So I feel like it's still placed really well. And with it being a bit run down, I just feel like it looked really nice placed in this biome. I did put a companion house here and made sure to put Zero. So he's right next to his mom and dad. He has his own little house here, so I had to place him here. Even though I already had a companion house in this area, it was only fitting to have Zero there as well. That is the Forgotten Lands. I, again, wanted to make sure that it was very open. I don't feel like my horses will have any problems running through it. But yeah, that was what was most important to me, I think, is that everything is just functional. So now to go the exact opposite of spooky, we have Dazzle Beach. So my Dazzle Beach honestly was the last biome that I decorated. And okay, this is still too heavy for her. So we're gonna take this item out of her hand. She's struggling a bit. Anywho, so Haru Beach is the final biome that I decorated. I wanted to keep it very, very simple and open because if you know anything about the beach, is that it is going to get cluttered really fast. It gets cluttered with all the coral things that you have to crack open. So I really wanted to keep it as simple as possible. Over here, I placed the house that you can receive with the Stitch bundle and created a bit of a seating area out front. And then off to the side, I used these tents. They're from the Oasis Star Path. I created a bit of a spa section, and I used Moana's house in between both of them as if that's the main spa resort. You go in and you check in with Moana, and then she'll go ahead and place you at her spa resort. Over here, I have the companion houses, which also looks like a little wash up sink or wash bin. And I have extra turtles roaming the area like I've done with the other biomes. I just feel like it gives some movement to the biome overall. I used the Aladdin skin for the well because, again, I feel like the color scheme just fit really well with the other items that I've used in this section. And then off of the pier, I have a fishing dock where you can go fishing. You can get your tools and everything that you would need for it placed over here. Off to the right, I have the beach house, and this is where the lifeguards live and are posted up to make sure that our beaches are safe on the valley. And then when you come down to the front entrance of the beach off of the peaceful meadow is a bit of a boardwalk where it leads over to Stitch's house. Originally, I had used completely different fencing, but I felt like it was too dark for the area. I used like the bamboo fencing. I switched it to the white picket fence, and then I used the hedges. These hedges, again, they came with the Stitch bundle with the hibiscus flowers on it, and I just felt like it added such brightness I also lined my boardwalk with the bananas and coconut so that I can easily collect them when need be. Again, all of my mining nodes and everything is easily accessible. I have Goofy Stole here, and I believe this is the Moana skin that I put on Goofy Stole, and it just fits in so well with this section. If there's anything that I recommend that you get from the premium shop, it is the Well skins, Goofy Stalls, and Any House. Those are the three things I feel like are non-negotiables. I didn't realize how much I used that stuff until it came time for decorating. So off to the side of Stitch's house, I used the fruit and vegetable stand truck. This truck is so cute. The Stitch bundle, honestly, is one of the top tier bundles that they've come out with. And so I put that over here with some of the vegetable stands where you can get some fresh fruit. So off on the side, I have the jungle boat house, and I love that you can place it fully on water. I have the dinghies that look as if they are leaving and coming to the house as if that is your way to travel out in the water to get to it. And then over on this side, out in the distance, I do have the lighthouse with a dinghy in front of it as well. And that is where the lighthouse manager is able to pop in and get to and from. And then I have Maui's house off to the side over here as well. And I used some of the rocks leading up to the house as stepping stones to get to and from. Obviously, this is not going to be easily accessible to get to and from Maui's, but honestly, who's trying to get there? Not I, but this is my beach. Again, this was an area that I spiraled with so much, and I had to keep just tweaking it more and more until I finally loved it. And that's another thing. I think if I had more time, which obviously I had time, I just really wanted to get the valley done before the DLC, the newest DLC was released. But I would say to take your time with decorating the areas. And even if you first don't like a section that you've decorated, there's literally nothing wrong with going back and continuing to tweak. I spiraled with my beach so much before I got to a version of it that I really liked. And I still feel like it's going to go through some more iterations. But as a base, I really do like how it came out. I love how simple it is. I love how open it is. And it's going to be easy to traverse with my horses. And honestly, what's more important than that, you know? Last, but certainly not least, is our Forested Heights. So the entrance to our Forested Heights, I used the castle walls along with this foliage that we received from the Storybook Vale DLC. It is so pretty. It literally looks like frosted petals. And so I placed those in the front to frame our entrance leading to the Frosted Heights. The Frosted Heights, I wanted it to completely look like a frozen mushroom forest. And I hope that came across with the vibes. All I knew is that I wanted to use pink, purple, and blue, if I'm being completely honest. That was the color scheme, and I wanted to make sure that I got that color scheme across here. And I wanted to use the mushrooms so badly. And when I thought about what biome they would look the best in, I figured they would look best in either the Forgotten Lands or the Frosted Heights. And I finally decided to do the Frosted Heights because there's something about the pink and the blue that looks so pretty. So off to the right, I have Anna's house. In the front, I have some deer along with Kristoff's sleigh, which I thought was perfect because it looks like it's parked out in the front. I absolutely love this skin for the well. I've used it multiple times in my valley so far. It might be my favorite one. But even here, because of the blues and the pinks, I think it looks really, really well. And then when we go up to this pathing, it leads to another house that we have here. I love this house and this biome, especially because the mountains around it matches the mountains that seem to surround the Frosted Heights. So I felt like it looked really good up here. It also gives the appearance of the house being up on a hill. I hid my multiplayer thing back here because there's literally no other place to put this thing. Where, you know what we need skins for? This thing. We need skins for this bad. I can't stand it. So I unfortunately had to hide it. And then my pride and joy of my Frosted has to be the pink castle here. I love the mixture of colors here. As soon as I decided that I wanted the pinks and blues and purples for this area, I just knew that this house would look perfect here. I love having the castle here in the Frosted Heights. I feel like it looks really good in this area. I have the pathing that goes around on both sides, leading to the front where I have Goofy's stall. And again, I've used this skin of Goofy stall in so many places, and it just, when it works, you know? Just outside of here, I use the castle walls to split the entrance from the forest into the Frosted Heights, and I feel like it ties it very well since I use those walls to hide Elsa's house. It just ties in and makes it all cohesive. Out front, I have my cherry tree, so I'm able to grab those easily, and then it leads you back into the Frosted Heights. The Frosted Heights, I feel like, is another biome that can be very difficult to decorate just because of how the ponds are placed, how you have the river that breaks up the two areas. It can be a little cluttered. It can also get very messy very quickly, especially with the big mounds of ice that'll just pop up randomly. One thing I want to make sure I do is that I do take the time to go through my biomes and clean all those things up. I really do wish we had a toggle to take all that stuff off and stop it from spawning. But so like most of my biomes, I did keep everything very, very simple, very, very open. I wanted there to be the ability to traverse through the biomes very easy. I wanted to make sure that I have access to all my mining nodes. Even this one back here, I can easily get to it, no problem. And that's genuinely what I wanted for everything. I absolutely am obsessed with how functional my valley is. I feel like I've said that a few times, but I really, really am. It was what was most important to me, but I also wanted it to look pretty. And there's something that's just so satisfying about being able to walk around my valley and it just all looks so decorated and pretty. And I'm really proud. I'm really proud of how everything came out. And I'm so excited to continue to make tweaks and make changes because I already know I'm going to continue to change. I feel like I'm never fully satisfied. And with all the new items and things that we'll be getting, I'm sure I'm going to want to add to my valley. And most importantly, I would like to start decorating a lot of the DLC areas once now that I have finished the valley. I am so obsessed, y'all. Like just running through it, it's just so nice. It's just so nice to see everything so fully decorated. Like this is great. Okay, Scar, literally, I just was talking about how great it is and you are about to eat Olaf. Alrighty, fam. So that is it. I hope you enjoyed my valley. It is my pride and joy. I've probably said that 50 times. Y'all are probably the most hydrated bunch because I'm like, I love how this came out. But I really did. I really love how everything came out. If you have any questions about anything that you've seen in my valley, please feel free to leave them in the comments. I hope you all really enjoyed. This was an actual labor of love trying to get this done in the time span that I did it. But I am so happy to have it done. And I hope y'all enjoyed it. I plan on doing much more decor videos and showing more of the breakdown process of how I do my builds and how I approach them. I would love to do maybe a tips video. If that's something that you would be interested in seeing, definitely let me know in the comments. And what was your favorite biome? I want to know, out of all the biomes that you've seen, what was your favorite? Thank you so much. If you have not liked and subscribed, join the familia. We would love to have you. We are a crazy bunch, but you learn to love us, you know? Definitely be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, I will see all my lovely, beautiful, wonderful, amazing Lobitos. Later.